in the home stretch of awards season.
Every rejection, every disappointment has led you here.
The biggest movies of 2022 have hit theaters.
Movies are dreams.
The Oscar nominations have been announced.
Now the final category.
And today, we're preparing you for the March 12th ceremony.
No turning back now.
Welcome to Kent's 5 Screen Test, your home for all things movies, and today, for all things Oscar. I'm David Lynch, film critic for Kent's 5, here to break down the state of the 6 biggest races in this year's Academy Awards. Best Supporting Actor and Actress, Best Lead Actor and Actress, Best Director, and of course, Best Picture. 10 films are up for the biggest prize of the night, and it's a diverse crop, from art house thrillers to high-fi blockbusters, sci-fi comedies, and German war films. Let's run through them all, starting with the film that has the most nominations.
I've seen thousands of Evelyns.
It's been almost a year since the genre-spanning adventure Everything Everywhere All at Once premiered at South by Southwest in Austin. It's since written a strong box office performance, critical acclaim, and a dynamic performance from star Michelle Yeoh to 11 total Oscar nominations. This endlessly imaginative, multiverse-jumping movie from the directing duo that goes by Daniels is one part comedy, one part family drama, one part sci-fi adventure, and altogether one of the zanier movies that's ever been up for Best Picture at the Academy Awards. Filling the requisite war film slot in this year's Best Picture lineup is All Quiet on the Western Front. The brutal German-language movie emerged in recent months as Netflix's top Oscar contender, ultimately garnering 9 total nominations. That's many more than Rian Johnson's murder mystery Glass Onion and Noah Baumbach's satire White Noise, which also premiered on Netflix last year. All Quiet on the Western Front is a technical showcase contending for its sound and cinematography, but it also nabbed a screenplay nomination that could prove key for its Best Picture chances. More on that later. Now, if that title sounds familiar, here's why. A 1930 adaptation of All Quiet on the Western Front won Best Picture at the Oscars nearly 100 years ago. Maybe the story can win enough Academy support to triumph once again. Also tallying 9 nominations this year is the Irish dark comedy The Banshees of Inisherin, which stars Colin Farrell and Brendan Gleeson as 2 best friends undergoing a cataclysmic breakup of sorts. The film marks a return to form for its director Martin McDonagh, who finds humor in the existential and tragedy in the ludicrous. Banshees of Inisherin is an impressive tonal high-wire act and has been a major awards contender ever since it premiered to praise at the Venice International Film Festival way back in September. 4 actors were nominated for their performances in The Banshees of Inisherin. That includes Farrell, who ended an incredibly strong year with his first ever Oscar nod. Next up is Elvis, the dizzying and rambunctious biopic of the king of rock and roll from Great Gatsby director Baz Luhrmann.
Things are too dangerous to say.
Even at over 2.5 hours, the movie is light on meaningful examination about its titular rocker and could stand to closely interrogate his enduring place in culture. But movies about real-life musical icons tend to win big at the Academy Awards, and Elvis moves, grooves, and shakes to the energy of young actor Austin Butler, whose undeniable breakout performance nabbed him a lead actor Oscar nomination. When Elvis the character takes the stage, Elvis the film comes to life. For the second year in a row, a new Steven Spielberg movie has racked up 7 Oscar nominations. The Fabelmans puts the legendary director's life story on the screen, tracking how he fell in love with movies as a child while his parents barreled toward divorce. The Fabelmans isn't the strongest of latter-era Spielberg films, and certain sequences stand out stronger than the whole, but it does end on its strongest scene and an incredible cameo, as well as put some of Spielberg's most famous films in a new context. The most accomplished movie in this year's Best Picture lineup is Tar, a mighty captivating character study set in the world of classical music and centered around one of the best performances from one of our best actresses in Cate Blanchett. It's the first movie for director Todd Field in 16 years, returning with a vengeance with a film meant to provoke conversation about power dynamics and the elitist maneuvers of high art titans who seemingly have nothing to lose. Tar is up for 6 Oscars, and they're all in some of the biggest categories of the night. Its best shot might very well be in Best Actress. More on that race and Cate Blanchett's chances coming up in a few minutes. And then there's one of the biggest Hollywood success stories of the year in Top Gun: Maverick.
Here we go. In 3,
one.
Delayed multiple times due to the pandemic, the movie finally opened in May and went on to earn more than $700 million domestically, more than any other 2022 release and more than any other Tom Cruise movie. It's rare for blockbusters to nab a Best Picture nomination, but Maverick is more than deserving with its tight script, roaring action, and crowd-pleaser thrusters firing on all cylinders. Tom Cruise was in the running for Best Actor as well, but he didn't make the cut. Just twice in the last 15 years has a sequel been nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars, and 2 sequels were nominated this year alone. Joining Top Gun in the lineup is the long-awaited Avatar: The Way of Water.
The way of water connects all things.
After a 13-year wait that became its own kind of punchline, the first of several planned Avatar sequels brought audiences back to Pandora for the first time since 2009. The bigger surprise is that the movie is an improvement on the original, bringing genuine heart to immerse us even further into one of the most painstakingly rendered worlds ever brought to the big screen. Joke all you want about talking whales, but the last hour of this slightly bloated epic has to be seen to be believed. And it's certainly being seen, to the tune of $2 billion and counting. Whether all those people will tune in on March 12th to see if Avatar can bring home any Oscar gold remains to be seen. Meanwhile, a much lesser-seen movie that also largely unfolds on water does have potential to play spoiler in the Best Picture race. Having won top prize at the glitzy Cannes Film Festival last summer, the mildly entertaining but thematically spare satire Triangle of Sadness is gunning for another big triumph at the Oscars. It comes from Swedish filmmaker Ruben Östlund, whose movies explore humanity's flaws through typically outrageous scenarios. In Triangle of Sadness, the showstopper sequence is a captain's dinner on a yacht navigating a chaotic storm. Let's just say you might be better off waiting to watch this movie if you've just eaten. Triangle of Sadness belongs to that genre of quote-unquote eat the rich movies. That worked well for Parasite when it won Best Picture a few years back, but that South Korean film also worked in many different levels, while Triangle of Sadness does not. Last up is Sarah Polley's star-studded drama Women Talking, which centers on a group of Mennonite women debating whether to leave, stay, or fight back after a series of assaults by the men in their community. Though the story is rooted in those attacks, Polley's strong script foregrounds the merits and clearly defined arguments of her characters. The performances also give weight to relevant questions about what is most practical in the most horrific of scenarios. The cast of Women Talking is a who's who of talented actresses, including Frances McDormand, Claire Foy, and Jessie Buckley. None of them made the cut at the Oscars for their performances, but that made room for history to be made over in this Best Supporting Actress race. Let's break it down. Vying for Best Supporting Actress this year is Angela Bassett from Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Hong Chow from The Whale, Carrie Condon from The Banshees of Inisherin, and 2 performers from Everything Everywhere All at Once, Jamie Lee Curtis and Stephanie Hsu. What's fascinating about the acting races this year is that for the first time in decades, 16 of the 20 recognized performers are first-time nominees. 4 of them are in this category, and it's been 29 years since Bassett was nominated for playing Tina Turner in What's Love Got to Do with It. Her nomination here is historic. Bassett becomes the first actor or actress from the Marvel Cinematic Universe to be recognized. The first Black Panther movie aside, Academy voters have been reluctant to honor MCU fare, limiting it mostly to crafts categories like sound and effects. That Bassett was able to secure a nod here speaks to the strong body of work she's churned out over the years, and the respect she's won from her peers.
I am queen of the most powerful nation in the world, and my entire family is gone! Have I not given everything?
Jamie Lee Curtis has forged a screen legacy of her own ever since starring in John Carpenter's Halloween. She's as committed as ever in some of the silliest moments of Everything Everywhere All at Once, but it's her co-star, Stephanie Hsu, who turns in the more dynamic performance of the two, as both Michelle Yeoh's neglected daughter and the cosmic villain wreaking havoc in infinite universes. 11 nominations indicate enough broad support that Everything Everywhere All at Once probably can't be totally counted out in any race. That being said, the very real risk here is that the movie's 2 nominees will split votes, clearing the way for someone else to win. Could that someone be Carrie Condon? The TV veteran is just one link in the Banshees of Inisherin's ensemble, perhaps the year's best. Certainly she has no shortage of memorable lines as the sister of Colin Farrell's character, fed up with the feud that has overtaken their community.
Can't be waiting around for any more of this madness.
The Academy could very well also go for Hong Chow,
who has slowly and steadily emerged in recent years as an MVP-level actress on big screens and small ones too. She plays the caretaker to Brendan Fraser's 600-pound protagonist in the polarizing drama The Whale. And though she gives a strong performance, the lack of recognition in other categories like Best Picture or Screenplay indicate she may be in a weak position. The Banshees of Inisherin, meanwhile, secured an ensemble nomination from the Screen Actors Guild, the biggest segment of Academy voters. That bodes well for Condon's chances, and she would get my vote for the hilarious ways she puts the men of Inisherin in their place. As for who will win on March 12th, it's hard to overlook Bassett and the emotionally forceful performance she gives in a movie defined by the grief of its story and the passing of Chadwick Boseman in 2020. She's got the momentum at this point to walk away with her first Academy Award this year. There's much less mystery over in the Best Supporting Actor race, where the nominees are Brendan Gleeson for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brian Tyree Henry for Causeway, Judd Hirsch for The Fabelmans, Barry Keoghan also from The Banshees of Inisherin, and Ke Huy Quan from Everything Everywhere All at Once. If you're filling out a ballot and joining an Oscars pool this year, here's one category you shouldn't have to fret over. Ke Huy Quan's campaigning has been defined by an irresistible comeback story you can't help but root for. Best known for his roles in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and The Goonies, Quan's Hollywood career was at a standstill for years when Daniels enlisted him to play Wayland in Everything Everywhere All at Once, a role that calls for pathos, comedic chops, and the ability to sell a fanny pack fight in the scene that kicks the film into another gear altogether. Anything other than victory for Quan here would be a major shocker on Oscar night, as he's more or less swept award season thus far for a great performance that elevates Everything Everywhere All at Once. That being said, this is a well-rounded category with some other exciting nominees. Among the younger actors being recognized for the first time is Brian Tyree Henry. A year removed from his own appearance in the MCU, he gives a characteristically sensitive turn opposite Jennifer Lawrence in the A24 drama Causeway. His appearance here is a pleasant surprise. But with presumably years of great work still ahead, the Academy likely won't jump to award him Oscar this time around. Keeping the first-time nominee party going is Ireland's Barry Keoghan. Having worked with major names like Yorgos Lanthimos, Christopher Nolan, and David Lowery, Keoghan is always one of the most captivating things about any project he appears in. Even as a B-string character in The Banshees of Inisherin, Keoghan personifies the line of "so silly it's actually quite moving" that movie treads. There's a reason this particular clip has been going viral lately.
You probably wouldn't ever want to, I don't know, fall in love with a boy like me, would you?
Oh, Dominic, I don't think so, love.
Oh, there goes that dream.
There's two performers from the film and supporting actor. Also receiving a much-deserved nomination for his turn in The Banshees of Inisherin is Hollywood journeyman Brendan Gleeson. The actor has popped up in everything from blockbuster action movies to quiet indie dramas over the years, proving the depth of his range. He reunites with his In Bruges co-star Colin Farrell in The Banshees of Inisherin, playing Farrell's former drinking buddy who experiences an existential awakening to set the story into motion. Rounding out the category is Judd Hirsch, who needed all of one scene in The Fabelmans to lock down a nomination here, bumping his co-star Paul Dano out of Oscar contention in the process. His is a brief but enthusiastic turn as young Sammy Fabelman's grandfather, in an early scene that, while tonally awkward, does sum up the compromise of art and life that powers Spielberg's movie.
Believe me, Sammy boy, I get it. Family, art. It'll tear you in two.
There certainly isn't an undeserving nominee in supporting actor this year, but in the end, you can count on Ke Huy Quan being up on that stage come Oscar night. The Academy loves drama in both real life and the movies, and it simply makes too much sense that they would want to put a cherry on top of his comeback tour while celebrating the most nominated film this year. Now let's jump over to the lead actor, where no fewer than 3 names have a legitimate shot at winning their first Oscar. Once upon a time, Hugh Jackman was a predicted contender here, and many thought the love for Top Gun might have boosted Tom Cruise as well. Instead, the race is down to these nominees: Austin Butler for Elvis, Colin Farrell for The Banshees of Inisherin, Brendan Fraser for The Whale, Paul Mescal for Aftersun, and elder Hollywood statesman Bill Nighy for Living. There's a spread of nearly half a century between the youngest and oldest nominees here. At 73 years old, Nighy is among the oldest acting nominees in Academy Awards history. He was recognized for his carefully calculated performance as a public works leader looking back on the unfulfilled potential of his life. Then there's Mescal, who at 26 was nominated for the heart-shattering father-daughter memory piece Aftersun. It's one of his very first film roles, and the kind of quietly sensitive performance the Academy does not always recognize, especially not in an actor so young.
So what's your sister's name?
Sophie.
Oh, nice.
I'm her dad, though, actually.
Sorry, mate, I just thought
That's okay.
The three lead actor frontrunners, however, neatly summarize the performances that have drawn the Academy's adoration in recent years. First of all, there's the lightning bolt of a breakout performance from Butler, affirming his star status as the real-life rock star Elvis. That accent alone might be worth the price of admission, but Butler's screen presence gives you at least some small idea of what it must have been like to witness Elvis Presley himself at the dawn of his career. Director Baz Luhrmann is known for his kinetic and musical dramas like Moulin Rouge and Romeo and Juliet. 26 years after helping put Leonardo DiCaprio on the map, Luhrmann's latest film is led by a star daring him to keep up and keep him in the frame.
Wiggle! The what? Them girls won't see you wiggle. Move, man!
The Academy loves portrayals of historical figures, and it loves portrayals of historical musicians. Hence Renee Zellweger winning for playing Judy Garland and Rami Malek for portraying Freddie Mercury. But the Academy also loves something else, a bona fide transformation. That's where Frasier comes in. Frasier suited up in hundreds of pounds of prosthetics to play the dangerously obese Charlie in director Darren Aronofsky's drama The Whale. But for all the skepticism that's come the film's way, it hasn't dampened the praise for Frasier, who has slowly returned to Hollywood in recent years. He's never done a role quite like this one, and as actors like Christian Bale and Joaquin Phoenix can attest, radical physical performances sometimes gives you an edge in the Oscar race.
Who would want me to be a part of their life?
And you can't discount the comeback narrative for Frasier, who hasn't been this much in the spotlight since starring in some of the biggest movies of the 90s. Meanwhile, Farrell has continued to work with all kinds of directors in that time, including Sofia Coppola, Terrence Malick, and Steven Spielberg. It's almost hard to believe this is his very first Oscar nomination. And what a deserved nomination it is, not just for the way he embodies the simple mind coming completely undone in The Banshees of Inisherin, but also for the totality of his 2022 work. In Ron Howard's 13 Lives, he was dependent as a cave diver rescuing a Thai soccer team. In The Batman, he was as memorable as he was unrecognizable as the Penguin. And in the soft-edged but intensely moving sci-fi After Yang, he's incredibly compelling as a father taking up a new lens through which to see his family in the aftermath of loss. That performance is arguably even better than his work in Banshees, and critics groups have rightly recognized Farrell for both.
Let's see if we can taste the world together. Drink it all at once.
So this race has it all: the physical transformation in Brendan Fraser, the birth of a new star in Austin Butler, and the chance to recognize a long-respected actor always at the top of his game in Colin Farrell. Any one of these three names could win on Oscar night. That being said, The Whale missed out on a Best Picture nomination, which could be crucial for Fraser. You'd have to go back to 2010 to find the last lead actor winner who won for his performance in a movie not up for Best Picture. That was Jeff Bridges for Crazy Heart.
Thank you, Mom and Dad, for turning me on to such a groovy profession.
Rami Malek won for playing Freddie Mercury just a few years back. It might be logical to assume Austin Butler's got this one in the bag for playing another rock icon, especially in a performance that's far more engaging. But I think the winner will ultimately be Farrell, who has been so good for so long and stars in a major Best Picture contender with broad support among the various branches. Pencil him in for his overdue Academy Award triumph. This year's Best Lead Actress field is as notable for the names that aren't there as the ones that are. 2022's films offered a wealth of Oscar-worthy performances. Some of the names that ultimately fell short of a nomination include Viola Davis for The Woman King, Margot Robbie for Babylon, Tang Wei for Decision to Leave, and in one of the more egregious snubs of the year, Danielle Deadwyler for Till. Here are the nominees still in the race: Cate Blanchett for Tar, Ana de Armas for Blonde, Andrea Riseborough for To Leslie, Michelle Williams for The Fabelmans, and Michelle Yeoh for Everything Everywhere All at Once. Let's start with the elephant in the room. That would be Andrea Riseborough, the English actor who has worked for about 20 years on all kinds of movies, from the neon-tinged art house thriller Mandy to the occasional Oscar contender, like Birdman. Riseborough has long been praised for her range, but she's far from the household name status of her fellow nominees here. And the microscopic Texas-set drama she's nominated for, To Leslie, is a small blip on the radar of 2022 titans like The Fabelmans and Everything Everywhere All at Once. Consider that it cost less than $1 million to make and made just over $27,000 at the US box office. None of that diminishes the fact that Riseborough does give a titanic performance of a woman picking up the pieces years after blowing her lottery winnings.
You don't gotta worry about me because, despite your best effort, I ain't going nowhere.
Movies with this small of an imprint simply don't make noise at the Oscars. Even Best Picture winner Moonlight, the cheapest movie to ever win the top prize, was a small box office phenomenon. In the case of To Leslie, it was an apparent grassroots effort by Riseborough's peers essentially singing her praises that lifted her to an 11th hour nomination. It's a social media-centric campaign so out of the norm that it's even sparked an investigation by the Academy into 21st century campaigning methods. Though they have said they won't revoke Riseborough's nomination, the stories likely continue unfolding as we near the Oscars on March 12th. Rising star Ana de Armas might be happy that all the attention is focused on her fellow nominee here, because she brings some baggage of her own, or at least her film does. Netflix's NC-17 rated biopic about Marilyn Monroe, Blonde, is perhaps the most controversial movie nominated for any category this year. A 2-hour, 40-minute barrage of brutal sequences reducing Marilyn to a victim of her own stardom, director Andrew Dominik has been criticized for lacking any empathy or real interest in the subject matter, instead emphasizing Marilyn's torment through a medley of visual tricks that makes Blonde captivating to watch but difficult to endure.
I can't face doing another scene with Marilyn Monroe.
Blonde didn't get any Oscar love aside from Ana de Armas, whose performance is pretty impressive given how thinly written her Marilyn is. A win for her would be a surprise given the pedigree of the other names in this race, among them another actress who's played Marilyn Monroe in the past, Michelle Williams. Williams was nominated for her own turn in 2012's My Week with Marilyn. In fact, this is her 5th nomination after playing the mother figure of A House Divided in Steven Spielberg's autobiographical The Fabelmans, a character racked with remorse while encouraging her filmmaker son to continue pursuing his dreams.
One more thing, Dolly. Let's not tell your father. It'll be our secret movie, just yours and mine.
Williams has got a tough history with Oscar. None of her previous 4 nominations resulted in a win, and many thought her case would be stronger if she were contending instead in the slightly weaker Best Supporting Actress category. As it stands, she's got to campaign long and hard if her 5th nomination is going to be the charm. That brings us to the 2 women far ahead of the rest of the pack, from 2 of the best films of the year that couldn't be any more different. Cate Blanchett and Michelle Yeoh have been trading wins this awards season, and their Oscar showdown will last right up until the morning of March 12th. A 3rd Oscar win for Blanchett would put her in elite company. Katharine Hepburn, Meryl Streep, Ingrid Bergman, and most recently, Frances McDormand are the only other actresses with 3 or more performing Oscars. Blanchett has a very strong chance to join them after playing Lydia Tarr, a world-renowned composer whose carefully constructed rise to the top is shattered when her ego comes to be used against her. It's an impeccable performance that begs to be deconstructed and picked apart by audiences.
Time is the thing. Time is the essential piece of interpretation. You cannot start without me.
Michelle Yeoh has a chance to make history here too, after becoming the first Asian woman nominated for Best Lead Actress. It's poetic that she was nominated for an action-heavy sci-fi drama in Everything Everywhere All at Once, seeing as action is where Yeoh made her name. Over the years, she's teamed up with the likes of Jackie Chan, James Bond, and everyone in between, becoming one of the most successful crossover stories between Eastern and Western cinema.
You see the chopper?
I can't see! Hold on!
Yeoh has been passionate about Everything Everywhere All at Once ever since it premiered at South by Southwest, where she said she's never had the chance to show off so many different sides of herself as a performer. That the movie balances virtually every genre while maintaining its emotional core is a testament to her range and to her willingness to subvert expectation.
Of all the places I could be, I just wanted to share with you.
Whoever ultimately prevails in Best Actress will likely depend on where the night is going as a whole. Michelle Yeoh winning would signal that there's enough broad support that Everything Everywhere All at Once might win Best Director or even Best Picture. But Tar already overperformed in this year's nominations, which shows that movie could be in line for a big night on March 12th, and eventually even boost Cate Blanchett to her third Oscar win. My gut tells me the first scenario will happen, and that the love for Everything Everywhere All at Once will lift Yeoh to a much-deserved first Academy Award victory. We're now in the home stretch, y'all, Best Director, and it's hard to talk about this prize without talking about Best Picture. 6 times in the last 10 years, the Academy has awarded Best Director and Best Picture to different films. It stands to reason that could happen once again. But first, the nominees. They are Martin McDonagh for The Banshees of Inisherin, Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert for Everything Everywhere All at Once, Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans, Todd Field for Tar, and Ruben Östlund for Triangle of Sadness. It's worth making note of some trends here. For one, international filmmakers have long dominated this category as of late. The only US-born director triumph here since 2010 is Damien Chazelle for La La Land. That bodes well for Ruben Östlund and Martin McDonagh from Sweden and the UK respectively, particularly McDonagh, whose Banshees of Inisherin is one of the most nominated films this year.
Just tell me what I've done to you.
Well, you didn't do anything to me. I just don't like you no more.
Here's the next thing to keep in mind. For a while in the 2010s, the Academy prioritized technical audacity when it came to awarding Best Director, hence Alfonso Cuarón winning for Gravity or Alejandro González Iñárritu winning for Birdman. The last few years, not so much. Ever since Bong Joon-ho won Best Director over Sam Mendes in 1917 and 2019, Best Director has gone to filmmakers whose visions were more of a complete package. The impressive performances, the ideas, the ability to churn up complicated emotions meant to get audiences talking about endings that demand interpretation. 2 directors in this year's lineup made films that check off all those boxes while racking up a solid tally of nominations across the board. Todd Field for Tar, and once again, Martin McDonagh for The Banshees of Inisherin. With condolences to our beloved Spielberg, whose Fabelmans could very well go home empty-handed this year, Best Director could be down to these 2 names. So who's got the edge between these 2 deserving contenders? We've created a hypothetical road to victory for McDonagh, who has the international appeal and the filmmaking pedigree. Plus, The Banshees of Inisherin is one of the top 2 or 3 frontrunners over in Best Picture. But I also think we're headed for another Best Director, Best Picture split at this year's Oscars, which makes it easier to carve out a case for Todd Field instead. Tar marks his first movie in 16 years. Last year, the Academy saw fit to name Jane Campion Best Director for The Power of the Dog, which was her first film in 12 years, which is to say that Academy voters might very well be in a state of mind to honor our masters who may go another decade before their next movies come out. Field may be an American, but factor in that much of Tar takes place in Germany, and it becomes easier to imagine him getting just enough support for his complex conversation starter of a movie.
How's the writing going?
That brings us to the biggest prize of the night, Best Picture, and there's been no shortage of surprises in this category as of late. From Coda's surge from behind victory last year, to the Moonlight La La Land mix-up, to Parasite becoming the first non-English language film to win Best Picture. We may very well be in for some drama again this year, but first, let's remind you of the nominees. They are All Quiet on the Western Front, Avatar: The Way of Water, The Banshees of Inisherin, Elvis, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, Tar, Top Gun: Maverick, Triangle of Sadness, and Women Talking. One big thing to keep in mind when it comes to how Best Picture is voted on. Ever since 2009, it's the only category that utilizes a preferential ballot method of voting. In the simplest terms, determining Best Picture is less about the film that's most passionately loved by the Academy and more about the film that's strongly admired by the widest swath at the Academy. It's also important to note that having the most nominations does not always foreshadow a Best Picture win. In fact, that's only happened 8 times since 2000, the last time being The Shape of Water in 2018. That doesn't immediately spell trouble for Everything Everywhere All at Once, however. Instead, it's easier to bump out Top Gun: Maverick, Avatar, and Elvis, the top moneymakers in this Best Picture crop. The Academy is more open than ever to nominating major blockbusters, but this will not be the year it decides to finally award one.
Just want to manage expectations.
We can probably also take All Quiet on the Western Front and Women Talking out of the running. Neither film nabbed acting, editing, or directing nominations, and it's incredibly hard to win Best Picture without any of them.
We've liberated ourselves. we will have to ask ourselves who we are.
And though there are passionate defenders of Ruben Östlund's polarizing gross-out satire Triangle of Sadness, there's likely just as many voters who will leave it in the bottom slots of their ballot. It would be a big surprise if it won, and I'm not quite feeling that bold.
I don't want to hear anybody saying no. It's always, yes sir, yes ma'am.
That leaves us with a nice clean 4 films that we've mentioned plenty of times up to this point. The Banshees of Inisherin, Everything Everywhere All at Once, The Fabelmans, and Tar. Now's as good a time as ever to recognize the other standout films from this year that were deserving of a nomination but didn't make the cut. Those include Aftersun, one of the most heartbreaking movies of the year from a young director named Charlotte Wells, RRR, the Indian action epic that made waves all year long, Decision to Leave, a ravishing South Korean thriller, and Jordan Peele's Nope, whose total absence among this year's nominations won't age well. But back to the frontrunners we are talking about today. It's difficult to root against Spielberg's The Fabelmans, especially when you consider that this is more or less the origin story of one of the most important directors of the last 50 years. The Fabelmans has a strong case for victory on March 12th.
I'm asking you to do this now for your mom.
Yeah, and I said that I will, just not tomorrow.
Don't be selfish. She just lost her mother. That's more important than your hobby.
Dad, can you stop calling it a hobby?
It's just as hard to root against the sensation that has been Everything Everywhere All at Once. Rarely, if ever, has a movie that leans this hard into science fiction and multiversal silliness generated such genuine awards buzz. But that's what a strong campaign and endearing lead performances gets you.
You may only see a pile of receipts, but I see a story. I can see where this story is going.
Tar, meanwhile, has the art house factor on its side, as well as the fact that between its performances and its craft, there's plenty to love about Todd Field's film, even if you come away confused about what the whole thing was even about. Regardless, it's exactly the kind of alluring, cerebral masterwork that a modern expanded Academy might go for. Certainly it's got the most in common with Power of the Dog, which was all but certain to win Best Picture last year before Coda swooped in out of nowhere.
You must in fact stand in front of the public and God and obliterate yourself.
The Banshees of Inisherin's ascent to frontrunner status would have been hard to envision 20 or even 10 years ago. Its nomination feels much like a celebration of its ensemble, including the versatility of Colin Farrell and the dynamic career of young Barry Keoghan. But it also manages a delicate balance of tragedy and comedy, and that blend could push it over the top for voters.
Colin, Sonny, Larry. Didn't you and he used to be the best of friends?
We're still the best of friends.
No, you're not.
This is one of the more wide-open Best Picture races we've had in a long time, which is exciting for fans tuning in, but nerve-wracking if you're hoping to win your office Oscar pool. Whatever wins here will tell us a lot about how the industry sees itself in a post-pandemic movie-going landscape. Any and every Best Picture nominee has a strong case this year, but at this point, I think it's The Fabelmans that will appear just high enough on just enough number of ballots to win. It's been 31 years since a Spielberg film won Best Picture, and with last year's West Side Story still fresh in voters' mind, you can imagine the Academy's desire to honor the childhood story of a filmmaker whose work likely inspired many of them to get into the movies themselves. And there we have it. Thank you for joining us as we get ready for the Oscars on March 12th. Enjoy the awards drama, the red carpet fashion, and catching up on the nominees you haven't watched yet. And remember, I can't be held liable if you lose your Oscar pools. Check out kens5.com/screentest for the latest coverage in the world of film, and enjoy the show.